associates, welcome to TCID 4065 International Technical Communication. I'm Dr. HB and I'm the one who curated this experience for you. I'll be the one, reading and checking off your work and of course giving you feedback, comments, responding to your emails and chats whenever you have questions. Now you'll get a chance to learn more about me in your first, assigned lecture kind of information, but for this video, which I'm assuming you're watching as one of the very first things in our Canvas shell, I want to give you a quick tour of, what is going on, what to expect, why things are set up the way they are, so that way you're able to, get started off to a strong start this week. Now this class is asynchronous online, meaning we don't have any designated meeting times. We don't meet in person on campus. The entire thing is more or less self-paced, so you can, pick how quickly you really progress through the materials. I have provided, a recommended pace that's basically broken down into weeks, but there are no penalties for late work. I'll show you exactly what that means as we go through the Canvas shell. Now, since we are not ever going to meet in person formally, I do encourage, I want you to reach out, often whenever you have a question. We can meet, of course, over Teams, and I'll show you where to book those appointments, but I am working on campus. I'm in the Kramer Family Library, and so I am more than happy to meet you, in person on site if you are also in the, Colorado Springs on campus area. Just let me know what you need. Just because it's an online class doesn't mean you are going through this alone. Reach out. I am here to help and support you through all of your projects and all of your learning. Now, every single week I will post an update video on Mondays. So, check back in where I'm just going to share, here's what you might want to be working on this week. Here's any announcements, news, just things that I'm seeing as work is being turned in, and just a little encouragement to remind you that we are in this together and I am here for you. So definitely look for short videos like that. All right, I am going to flip the camera around and just talk you through some of the things going on in the Canvas shell so that way you can get started. All right, I recommend if you don't have this video, open in a new window or a tab, you might want to, go ahead and do that so that way you can follow, along in the Canvas shell with what I am describing and showing you. All right, let's go. All right, I am in the Canvas shell homepage student view, so you should see something extremely similar to what I am showing you. I'll just give you kind of a quick tour of a few things to note. So in our side navigation, it is simplified because I really want you to go through everything in our modules view. But we have our homepage. This class notebook will actually open up a OneNote that I just created for you. You don't have to use it, but if you sign in, then you will find some, just like worksheets, sort of self-check quiz questions preloaded into your notebook, just to help you as you are, reading and going through materials in each of the units. So you're welcome to use that if you are a OneNote user. The other side, you have modules. That's where you're going to go through most of your content, and we will hop back into that, but it just has all of the materials for the whole semester published. The vital source course materials is where, if you're using TAP especially, you are able to get the book. Now, you can of course buy the physical book. Here's what we are using this semester, but it was part of TAP if you sign up for that. And if you opted out of TAP, you can actually get a copy of this to read online through the library. And so I do have those linked on the reading pages for you. We will be going through this whole book. There'll be a few other, materials linked, but you do 100% need this book for success in this class. So do get it or read it online through the library. But Vital Source is, pre-connected if you have tapped in for you to be able to read digitally. Your grades tab, of course, is your gradebook, and the way grades are going to work in this class are a little bit different, and so I do want to spend some time going through that. But basically, every single thing in this class is already published for you, but there is a specific order that you have to complete them in. Basically, you'll need to go through, everything in the orientation unit and then complete unit 1, unit 2, and unit 3, but you are allowed and, able to stop whenever you want. Basically, every time you complete a unit, you will have locked in and earned a new letter grade. So completing unit 1 gives you a C. And if you decide, you know what, I'm good with these core competencies, I'm going to stop, and you're fine with a C on your transcript, Great, that's fine with me. Of course, I recommend you keep going, but it is your life. Once you finish everything in Unit 2, you will have earned a B. And again, if you're like, you know what, I think I've had enough practice, I'm fine with a B. You are again welcome to stop and nothing will happen. You have earned your B when you complete all those tasks. Now, if you are looking for an A, which I strongly recommend that you get, then you will want to go ahead and finish the business strategy unit, just kind of tying everything together. And when you finish all the stuff, that's how you get an A in this class. And it is basically 40 tasks over the whole semester you'll need to do. So that's how your gradebook will look. Everything is a complete, incomplete, with the exception of 2 quizzes that happen, though you will have to earn 1 full point on those quizzes for it to continue and count. Other things, you have student resources, which will basically just take you to all the stuff on campus that have also hybrid and online options. So definitely use your resources when necessary. And then, just some other student tools. All right, so on the homepage, what you're going to see, kind of at the top, we have our PAL chat, which is an FAQ chatbot. It will be online soon, probably within week 2. Just running some last little updates. I will give you kind of patch notes for that. But basically what the PAL chat is, it knows and has been sort of trained and has a knowledge base on all of our class materials. So you are absolutely welcome and encouraged to ask it questions about the syllabus, assignments, projects. Keep in mind though, it is, large language model. So it might hallucinate some policies. It might pull, wrong information from the knowledge base, but it is definitely a good place to start. And then you can follow up with me as well as verifying the information in Canvas as you go along. This one is book a meeting. It will open to the external online scheduling link. So just go ahead and click that. And now you can grab a meeting, at whatever times it's synced to my calendar. And so if it shows up on here, you can absolutely do that and use that meeting. And it will create a Teams meeting. So if I select that, hit next, and it does have kind of an option of where you want to meet. My default is over an academic office building. While I am mostly working in the library, I do still have an office with the TCID folks, and so we can definitely meet over there, or in the library, we'll just follow up. Or if you just want to meet over Teams, select Teams, and it will create that link for both of us to meet. Just make sure wherever you are located, I am working off Mountain Time, so just kind of check that it is on basically Denver's time if you are out of the state. Okay, modules, again, is where the main content will be. And then I do have this recommended course schedule. So if you like to have, a very clear structure, especially with online classes, it can be easy to sort of, get off track and then suddenly have to do a lot of work at the end. Don't want that for you. I have created this recommended pace that breaks it down week by week, as if we were in, an in-person class. You do not have to follow this pace. It is just there to give you structure and to populate the schedule if you need it. So each week you can see the topic that you'll be reading, and you can use these links to jump to the tasks and just keep track of what activities you should be turning in ideally, or what I would recommend you turn in and work on. All right, also on the home page, I'll give you some kind of notes and updates for the week. This will change every single week. So every Monday-ish, I will be updating this page. And you can kind of see when things were last updated up here at the top, so you can always check. But I will give you a new, kind of weekly overview here and a new video message every single week, so you know what's going on and can kind of stay in touch. Otherwise, the rest of this homepage is just the digital syllabus, where you can go through, read all that information. I don't think I need to read it to you necessarily, but there are just, again, a few key things that I am explaining in this video that you will now go and read about yourself. So in the syllabus, some of the key things that you probably will care a lot about in terms of the required materials, besides the textbook that we just talked about, you will also need a Crowd-in account, which you will set up in Unit 2. You don't need it in Unit 1. I don't recommend setting it up yet because you will be on a free trial, but in Unit 2 you will need it. And so crowdin.com is a translation project management tool. So you will use the free plan, with one integration, one private project, and you'll be good to go. And you'll have more instructions on how to set that up when you need it. Also in Unit 2, again, you don't need it at all in Unit 1, but in Unit 2, you will also need an AWS Amazon account. And you are going to create the free, basically 12-month trial for that, because we will be connecting Amazon Translate into our crowd in to in practice with some high volume translation and localization. And don't worry about it now, but that is something you will need in order to complete the projects in number 2. Last, we also be using Figma, and I will be inviting you to the Figma for Education team and loading those in over the first sort of week of class. So you should have gotten that email already. Please reach out to me if you don't see it or you are unable to get into the education team because you will. I will be sending it to your EDU emails because it also needs to validate that you are an education user. So make sure to check that email. Cool, and that's really what you need. Otherwise, kind of all the basic tech and competency work. So with that grading policy, honestly, I think it's pretty straightforward. Just once you get your mind around it, everything is graded complete, incomplete, and completing the number of tasks increases your grade when you hit certain thresholds. So at first, in F is when you have completed fewer than 10 tasks. So basically, you've only done orientation in like half of Unit 1, which is basically no work, like you really haven't done anything. So that's an F. As soon as you have completed 10 tasks, so basically you've gotten through the first half of Unit 1, that unlocks a D, and you have your D, nothing will change or happen to your D. Once you complete everything in Unit 1, which is 17 tasks, recommend you, take like the first month to do it, then you will have unlocked a C, and nothing will change or happen to your C. You have completed that amount of work and it's locked in. When you've done half of the tasks in Unit 2, so you've earned 25, you've completed 25 things, that is a C+. When you've completed 33 tasks, which is you've finished everything through Unit 2, you've unlocked a B, and if you decide to stop at that point, you are welcome to do that. Nothing will happen to your B. It's not based on a percentage. It is what it is. If you do half of Unit 3's work, so 37 tasks get checked off, that is a B+, and you earn an A when you finish all of the tasks in Unit 3. So do all the tasks, get an A. You will revise and resubmit until you complete a task. So if something, just needs to be fixed, it isn't quite right, it isn't quite there, I will give you those notes and you will just redo it until you complete the work. So your grade is completely in your control as you are going through this experience, and you will just fix things, until you get it right. Cool. Other little things, AI statement, we are using machine learning, the Google, you'll use Google Translate as well as Amazon. So like the AI policy, like yes, absolutely, it is part of the workflow in this type of work. But when it does come to some of your more reflective pieces that are meant to represent, you and your learning, just know like you can still use these tools. I think it is good as a professional to know how to do it so you can produce a higher quantity of quality work. But if I'm reading through your project completion report and it is empty, so it's just kind of a lot of buzzwords, but it's not really telling me about how you completed this workflow process, that will be something you have to revise. So you're welcome to use it just to make sure that you're using it as your intern, as a tool to help you get to higher quality work. And it's not just, an empty vessel of not telling me anything. All right. Very good. Yeah, that's kind of the key thing, I think, from the syllabus. Read through the whole thing with all of the policies, all the explanations, and let me know when you have questions. Okay, now I'm just going to give you a quick tour of what to expect in the first module, and every single module kind of follows this same pattern, more or less. So in our modules view is where you can see everything. Notice it is blocked, it's grayed out, and you can't click on these. They are locked, again, until you finish the prior work. So there's prereqs, you have to do your intro and course tutorials, and you have to complete all items, and it will, show you what is checked off or not. So in my test student account, I had already kind of checked off this, but I can't move on because I haven't done these things. So every single week, I recommend, but in every single unit is made up of mind map topics. So you will be essentially turning in kind of like your notes from readings and lectures to check off that as a task. You will have activities. So these are much smaller, just kind of like practice things related to the topics. And so you'll check those off. And then you have what we are calling our culture case studies, which is just you doing research and exploring on your own about, different countries. And then you'll be contributing those to a class little Figma board and submitting a worksheet about it. And then there's the main project. And these are big, these are long, these are accumulation of all of the like lectures, readings, and activities. So plan, for a lot more work, like a week to do these big projects. The culture quest study might take like a day or two, if that. Just, depends how deep into the research hole you get. The activities, really should only take like a day or two. They're pretty short. You could definitely get them done in an afternoon, for example. And then the readings, it is a full chapter of reading plus a full guided lecture. So you might want to plan for, most of the week to get through that. So I'd recommend do your reading most of the week, finish like around Friday, do your culture case studies, in like the afternoons, like Saturday afternoon, for example, and then work on your main project kind of a little bit all along the way and give yourself plenty of time for that. Okay, so when you are inside of the materials, the mind maps are going to look something like this. So it'll tell you what unit you're in up here. It will tell you how far you have progressed or sort of where you're at in the unit there. It has a suggested pace. So for this one, I recommend you complete by 8:29, and it will tell you what today's date is just to help you keep track. Again, the due date is there to populate something on your calendar view, but there is no late penalty. This is self-paced. And then you have 3 steps. So you'll read, you'll listen or follow along with the lecture, and then you'll do your mind map. So the reading access normally, again, will be in the book, but there's a few weeks like this very first one where you will actually be reading PDFs. So I'll just tell you if it is the book chapter or if it's a PDF, and then you'll be able to click on the link, and it will either download, or take you to where you need to go to read that chapter. It will always be a chapter, so just plan for, like 20, 30, whatever pages. And I'll give you kind of a sense of how many pages it is. Okay. Now, second step, and I recommend you read first and then do the lecture, because the lecture, follows up on some concepts and then expands on what you had before. So step 2 with the lecture access, it is through a program called Genially, and so it does have little interactive elements for you to go through. Videos will be embedded into it, and then sometimes there'll also be, like audio embedded into it, little, buttons and interactions for you to click on, hover over, and so, really go through it as a little bit more of that. It's a little bit more active and engaged than just watching a long video of me talking at you instead. So go through those. Great. And then last is your reflect. So how you actually show that you checked off this task is to submit a mind map. It can be a photo. You can make it in Figma, but I don't want just like your notes. I do want you to actually connect it, synthesize it into a little mind map diagram. So that way you're using, more of our information design skills. And 2, you're showing me that you're making broader connections and it is not just list of notes. So take your list of notes from your reading and lecture, turn it into a diagram showing how everything connects, including, what concepts stood out, what are examples, how do you see this, connecting to past classes or past projects or an internship that you're in. I want to see you form those connections as that higher order thinking, and it's not just like blah, 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 take in information. All right. And there's lots of stuff to help you with that. And then at the bottom, it's just links to kind of help you out. You can view the rubric, and anytime you just upload the submission. So text submission is gonna be a little tough. But if you like have a link or something, you put it in there. Web URLs, if you make it in Figma or Canva and you just want to share the link for me to see it, that's fine. Or you can upload an actual photo if you made your mind map on paper with sticky notes. And so when you do your submission, then you can, put it in here, doop. And then there is this option where you will be able to kind of self-assess on a lot of the rubrics, and then you can just submit. Cool. So after you submit your project is when the self-assess pops up. So that way you can see how well you did for yourself. And you can give yourself sort of a score, a comment, leave me any notes, questions, things you want me to specifically look at for you. All right. So if I go back to my modules, right, notice that this is submitted, so there it is checked off, but I do need to grade it and give you a complete on that before you'll be able to move all the way on. Now, the culture case studies will also always run the same way. So basically, I will give you a country, this first one, choose your own. Make sure you don't choose something that will be assigned later, but you can choose your own. And there's just all the steps. You'll conduct your research using kind of a method that will be covered in the readings and the lecture, mostly the lecture this week. So make sure you look at the lecture so you know what to do. Basically, you're just going to research a bunch about the country and fill out this worksheet. I have a Word file and a Google file there for you. So you will save your own copy of the worksheet, and this is what you'll be uploading into Canvas. So you basically, just go through part one, kind of answer these questions as you do your research. It'll be stuff on the historical context, economic profile, governance, social, cultural stuff. And then two, you'll think about where it's positioned within our world systems theory, and where you'll learn about it in the lectures as they start to come up, but world systems theory, and then you will post to the class FigJam. Now this very first one, again, is just warm up practice, so don't overly stress. Really, I just want to see that you're able to access everything, you're able to download the worksheet, you're able to, try, get started on some research, and that you're able to access the Fig board. Then starting next week, when we really get into more of the details of what to look for with market research and culture, it's when they'll be more intense, but this is a good practice orientation to it. Cool. I have resources here that you'll be using to do your research, or to at least start your research. So you should definitely check out these sources plus some of your own. And then when you are done with the worksheet, you'll go over to the Figma board space. You will want to look for the culture case maps. And within our culture case maps and Figma, I have kind of just little details of what you should be filling in, examples, notes. Here you can find the full country list. If you're not familiar with Figma, then you're going to want to go through some of their tutorials. This is also a chance for you to just start to learn Figma a little bit and play around with it. But you'll go through it. On the pages, right, select choose your own or whatever week that we're on. So you can see here's the list, the different countries. And you basically are just going to go through, go ahead and pick, find your name, pick a spot, add a photo of an interesting landmark or a data point or something that you found while you were doing your research, and just start filling out some of this information, adding photos, links, videos, just again, play around with Figma so you get a little bit more used to using it and seeing it as an interesting tool. Figma will come back around in Unit 3 for a more substantial project. And then down here, it shows you where you are at in terms of the progress, what has been checked off, what has not been checked off, what needs to be done. So I'll go ahead and, upload my submission here, submit my assignment. And then when I go back to my modules, the last thing you'll want to do is this course readiness check. Once you get a score of 1 on the course readiness check is when Unit 2 unlocks. So now you can see I was able to complete all of these tasks, on my test student account. So I check, unlocked everything. We'll jump ahead. So now Unit 1 is unlocked, but notice Unit 2 still locked because now I have to go through everything in Unit 1 in order to get there. And so now you'll be able to go through and start with the next set of things. Again, same pattern. You have your readings, give you a picture of the book, access to the book. Here is your lecture access, goes over to Genially, does have content you need, so make sure to use it, get it. Sometimes there is going to be little audio clips embedded that you'll want to watch, reflect, all of that good stuff goes in there. Okay, wow, sorry, this class tour video is definitely a lot longer than they will normally be. Normally it'll be a 3-minute update, but I just wanted to make sure you had an understanding of what's going on and what to look for in this Canvas show. All right, go ahead and get started with your Orientation 1 module.